to be a Blackhawk, and a trade could make him that. He is from the U.S. Olympic team, and from the Canadian Olympic team, and Team Canada Juniors, and Guelph Fighters of the Ontario Hockey League. Kirk Muller is a polished centerman who might well be a New Jersey Devil in the next 10 or 15 minutes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Montreal Forum and the 1984 NHL Entry Draft. I'm Dave Hodge with Dick Irvin in the booth and Don Whitman on the floor to cover something that will...
The 1984 NHL Draft took place on June 9th, 1984 at the Montreal Forum in Montreal, Quebec.
Before your very eyes, and Don Whitman is going to be the man who covers all of that. The only difference between
the video will now play out. Enjoy the video. At the very end, I'll have a message for you all. Enjoy the video.
Sound like a carnival marker right there before your very eyes. Another thing that's different than a political convention is the fact that there are teenagers involved. Now, in the background, what you hear is the fact that they have just announced the Quebec Nordiques. They have asked who's drafting for the Quebec Nordiques. There was a cheer when the Canadians identified themselves as who would be drafting. There's a motion, David, right here in the crowd with the public invited. And as the fans can see at home, it's quite a show, and it's totally different from what it was not that many years ago.
Well, this draft will belong, as all drafts belong, to the first draft pick, I guess. Mario Lemieux is going to have his day, whatever that means. There is all sorts of talk that when his name is called by Pittsburgh, he will not, because of contract negotiations and difficulties therein, go to the Pittsburgh table. And we're going to find out right now exactly what Mario Lemieux hopes to do or plans to do, as Don Whitman is with his agent and advisor, Gus Badali.
You're absolutely right, David. That's been the big story this entire week. What would Mario Lemieux do? There was speculation that he would not even show up here at the Montreal Forum. Gus Badali, he is here. I think this was prompted by a continuation of negotiation last night.
Yes, I had a call from Eddie Johnson late last night, and he came up with some new terms for me to consider, and I felt that communications were open again. Discussed it with Mario, and Mario is at the draft. However, Mario still feels uncomfortable about going to the table, so he's just here at the draft, but he will not approach the table.
How far apart are you in your demands?
Well, I guess it is still considerable. It's a well-known fact now that I believe an attendance incentive clause that I had in the contract, it seems to be the major stumbling block, and it wasn't in the new proposal, so we're still not agreeing to what was proposed last night.
So are you going to meet after the selection, after the draft concludes? Are you going to meet here with Ed Johnson?
Well, I'm not sure. The conversation wasn't all that long this morning when I told Ed of our decision, because he's got a lot of things on his mind with later drafts also. So I would think that once the draft's over, we will get together very shortly, because we want to put it away one way or the other also.
Gus Badali, we hope it all works out for Mario Lemieux. You know, the draft has certainly changed since it began 21 years ago in 1963 with former President Clarence Campbell in charge.
The order of draft will be Boston, New York Rangers, Detroit, Chicago, Toronto, Montreal Canadiens, and then around the horn in the regular order.
Through its early years, the National Hockey League draft consisted of League President Clarence Campbell and a couple of dozen others from the 6 NHL teams. But that changed with the expansion of the league in 1967, when this was the draft day scene at Montreal's Queen Elizabeth Hotel. 3 years later came the next expansion with the addition of Buffalo and Vancouver. They spun a wheel for the right to choose number 1, and after some confusion, Punch and Black and the Sabres were the winners, and they chose Gilbert Perreault. The next year, no suspense, but some humor. That was the Canadiens' general manager, Sam Pollock, who in 1971 had the first pick and who obviously was going to, and did, draft the number 1 junior superstar of that time. In 1973, another young big name was drafted. Denny Potvin, chosen by the New York Islanders, had some prophetic words right afterwards.
I will bring, along with my brother and the other players on the team, the New York Islanders into a contending position.
In 1978, the Minnesota North Stars had the first pick and chose center Bobby Smith from the Ottawa 67s. As the years went by, more and more attention and suspense surrounded the selection of number 1. In 1979, more history. 4 teams from the World Hockey Association joined the NHL and took part in a special draft. The Edmonton Oilers, Quebec Nordiques, and Winnipeg Jets were then in the NHL, making a total of 7 teams operating in Canada. John Ziegler had succeeded Clarence Campbell as president of the NHL in 1977. During the late 70s, the draft continued to grow in size and popularity, so much so that in 1980, its location was switched to the Montreal Forum, with Doug Wickenheiser chosen number 1 by the Canadiens. Then last year, more history.
Minnesota selects Brian Lawton.
Brian Lawton, the first American-born player to be so honored, proving again that times are changing at the NHL Draft.
Well, the man in charge of Central Scouting, I think, would agree with most of the experts. Mario Lemieux is definitely number 1, right, Jim Greger?
Well, that's a pretty firm word, definitely. I think a few more minutes we'll know for sure, but it would be a pretty good bet that he'd be first, but you never know. A lot of strange things happen at the draft.
Jim, in conversation with you the other day, you were saying that through 10 to 40, or 10 to 30 perhaps, some very good talent.
Well, I think that the players that are available this year, right up until the middle of the second round, are some kids that have a good chance of being good players in the National Hockey League. And in the years that I've been working with Central Scouting, it would seem to me that these players are a little better than the ones that have been available. There seem to be a few more of them. After the picks in around 40 to 50 to 60, there might not be as many good kids, but in between 10 and 35, 10 and 40, I think there's some real good ones.
Jim Greger, you've had a very busy time compiling the draft lists and talking to the various teams. The fruition of your labors will be apparent later on this afternoon. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you, Don.
Now let's go back upstairs to Dick and Dave.
The people watching here at the Montreal Forum are sitting in on a little bit of history themselves, as we have now had it confirmed that the first ever NHL first round number 1 draft pick, not to go to the table and shake the general manager's hand, is going to be evident here today in Mario Lemieux. The rumors, I would think, make this probably the most unpredictable draft we've seen in a long time. Let's deal with a few of them. I said Ed Olczyk, Chicago native, could wind up as a Blackhawk, but something has to happen first.
Well, the Blackhawks and the New Jersey Devils have to agree that the Devils, who have the number 2 pick, will lay off a certain player so that he's available number 3. Then the deal is made. Gets complicated. Montreal is rumored to be involved in a trade with St. Louis. And Calgary as well involved in a deal. Vancouver. There's been more rumors, Dave, since 2 o'clock this afternoon in the last hour than there was in the last week.
Well, the Montreal rumor concerns a defected Czechoslovakian player, an outstanding talent, Peter Svoboda, who defected to Europe, and the rumor now is that he has defected, if that's the word, from Europe to Montreal, and the Canadians have had him closeted away for a couple of days and do, in fact, plan to draft him to upset apparent plans that the Calgary Flames had to take him later in the first round.
Just to recap briefly, Pittsburgh gets the first choice because they finished with the lowest number of points in the last regular season, and it goes through as per that reverse order format until you get to Hartford, 5th lowest, but they have dealt their pick to the Montreal Canadiens. But there could be a trade in between. We'll keep you posted as we move along. They're just about to start.
Okay, let us now go back to the floor and Don Whitman.
And you know, you talk to 10 different general managers. They have their own opinions as to perhaps who the top 10 should be. But we at Sports Weekend have compiled this analysis of the top 5. Number 1, in everyone's opinion, Mario Lemieux. Number 2, a member of the U.S. Olympic team, Ed Olczyk. Another U.S. Olympian, Al Iafrate. He played with the Canadian Olympic team, Kirk Muller. also included among our top 5, but not necessarily in that draft position, Shane Corson. And we're just about set here at the Montreal Forum. Vice President Brian O'Neill is about ready to begin the 1984 entry draft.
We'll finish up the top third of the first round, and then it follows with St. Louis, Pittsburgh after trading Randy Carlyle to Winnipeg gets the Jets pick. Vancouver, Hartford after the swap in the Pierre LaRouche deal, drafts in Montreal's position. Calgary, Minnesota, and the Rangers, and then the first round will finish up this way. Quebec, Pittsburgh, and a Rich Sutter deal with the Philadelphia Flyers. The third first-round pick for the Penguins, Washington, Buffalo, Boston Islanders, and the Stanley Cup champion, Edmonton Oilers. Dick, I think it's appropriate to talk about the tremendous anticipation that one feels here when you realize that the future of a franchise such as Pittsburgh may be on the line. Futures of young hockey stars are on the line. The parents are pulling strongly for the preference of their particular son. And it's hard to be here and not feel that.
Well, Eddie Johnson is in the middle of it as the general manager of Pittsburgh now. League President John Ziegler.
For the first time in the history of the National Hockey League, this draft is going live coast to coast in Canada into a number of our cities in the United States and also by the radio. For that, I want to thank the Montreal Canadiens, the Forum, and of course CBC. It was about 21 years ago when we had our first amateur or entry draft. And it was started by my predecessor, Mr. Clarence Campbell. He's out there watching today, and I just wanted to say, Clarence, thank you for making all of this happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an exciting day. For the last 7 years, this draft has been conducted by my colleague, our Executive Vice President, Mr. Brian O'Neill. To our teams, I wish you good luck, good hunting. To all of you, I hope we have an exciting time, and I'd like to present to you now our Executive Vice President, Mr. Brian O'Neill. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. I now declare these proceedings open, and without further hesitation, I believe we are ready for our first selection, the first order of claim is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, le premier choix de Pittsburgh, numéro 66, Mariolemieux.
Pittsburgh claims Mariolemieux from Laval-Boisset.
Well, there you see it. Now, as Dave mentioned, normally the routine is for the youngster to go down to the table and shake hands with his new employer. But because of what Gospodali said, Mariolemieux is sitting right there.
Dans les estrades, puis peut-être qu'il est un petit peu plus tard.
Mario, Gospodali had told us that you would not walk to the Pittsburgh table. Your reaction, your feeling?
Well, you know, I don't feel to go downstairs on the floor, and because I think Pittsburgh don't really want me enough to go downstairs, so that's why I'm staying here, my family, all my friends.
Well, you've been discussing the situation with your agent, Gospodali, and I think you must be encouraged by the fact that they reopened negotiations last night.
Well, of course, you know, I'm happy about that. They called Gus last night, and they had a meeting, and, you know, it's looking good for the future, I think.
Mario, we hope it all works out for you. We look to you for you to be a future star in the National Hockey League. Now let's go back to Dick Irvin.
Well, you see Mariolemieux today. As he grew up, he met some big hockey names early in life, like Jean Beliveau, Steve Shutt, and Guy Lafleur. His talents came to the fore with the Laval-Boisset. Number 66, 6'4", 200 pounds. He had a remarkable career in junior hockey. Claude Fournel, owner of the Laval team, says Lemieux definitely is ready for the NHL.
He proved it. Game in, game out. After each game, he could answer to himself, did I do the best I could tonight? And it was always yes. That's why I feel that Mariolemieux will succeed in pro hockey.
So, Mariolemieux is number 1. There was no last-minute change. Now we go to number 2.
New Jersey. New Jersey.
New Jersey Devils, from Guelph, Kirk Muller.
New Jersey selects from Guelph, Kirk Muller.
No real surprise there. Kirk Muller from the Guelph Flaters and from the Team Canada Juniors and from the Canadian Olympic team in Sarajevo. He is a centerman. He is polished. He'll play in the league next year without any doubt. Don Whitman is with Kirk Muller.
Well, Kirk Muller's up now, coming down. Kirk, congratulations. There was some speculation as to whether you would go number 2 or number 3. I think you're quite pleased that the New Jersey Devils chose you.
Well, I certainly am. Ever since I was young, it's been my pleasure to play my wish to play in the NHL, and like I said before, I'd be happy to go anywhere.
A rather nervous day for you in more ways than one, in that I understand your young brother was trapped in the elevator for quite a while this morning, almost delayed you getting here for the draft.
Well, certainly, we had an experience where we were all going in for lunch, and we couldn't find my brother, and I had to spend half an hour looking for him, and at certain age I found him in the elevator, so everything worked out well.
Kirk, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
On this, and Dick, this may be simply an editorial judgment, but there was more than a smattering of applause for Kirk Muller, and I'm wondering whether it is due in large part because he appeared on the floor, and young Mr. Lemieux, who was otherwise very popular here, did not.
Possibly some of the people here for the first time are a little confused and not realizing that the fellas do come down to the floor. But Dave Muller was certainly ranked in the top 3. And he has had a fine career, as you mentioned, both with the Canadian Junior Olympic team, the Canadian Olympic team, the Guelph Flaters, and a good all-around hockey player, obviously. Number 2 overall.
He is basically a centerman. He played on the wing at times in Sarajevo. I am sure the Devils want him as a center. He hasn't got the scoring totals of Mario Lemieux, to be sure. But there are those who say, as complete hockey players go, that's a phrase that we hear very often, he may be better than Lemieux in all forms of his game. Only time will tell. You're going to hear that phrase more often than not. But the Devils had the choice, as everybody thought, between Kirk Muller and Ed Olczyk of the U.S. Olympic team, whom we expect to go next after a trade to the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's see if the trade transpires. Chicago dealing with L.A.
Well, the Los Angeles Kings are expected to make their selection right now, but there could be a trade. A timeout has been called. We have just heard the announcement. that a timeout has been called. Now, the rumor here on the floor is that Los Angeles and Chicago have made a deal. The deal could involve two players and draft switches. I understand that definitely goaltender Bob Janusek will be going to the Los Angeles Kings because Chicago covets Ed Olchuk. Now you see Rogie Vachon, the general manager of the Kings, talking with Brian O'Neill. And we'll be back to find out what deal has been made on Sports Weekend right after this.
Hey, Canada, join the Ford Best Built Quality Celebration at your Ford and Mercury dealers. We're selling the best built North American cars and trucks at low, low prices. Check out Ford Tough Explorer trucks up to $1,026 off. Add that package to this F-150 with the Workmate package and get up to $2,084 off. Come in during our quality celebration now for best built quality and value.
Second to none, as Ford quality, the job one.
Just 1 year ago, the Ottawa Civic Center was the site of an exciting political process. One man lost, another won, and the Conservatives had a new leader. On June 14th, the Liberals meet here, and one of 7 men will be chosen. History and a prime minister in the making. I'm Peter Mansbridge. Join me for complete live coverage, beginning with the testimonial to Trudeau, then the speeches, and on Saturday, June 16th, the vote. The Liberal Leadership Convention, a CBC television news special.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's having a vision. Not a vision. Not in my house, please.
Lou Ciccone sees murder in the strangest places.
The woman in the painting was hanging.
The house is haunted, and someone or something is out to scare everyone to death. Seeing Things, Sunday night on CBC television. The Making of a Soldier.
In 10.3 weeks, you are going to become a Marine. Yeah!
War with Win Dyer.
It's the NHL entry draft in the middle of a timeout called by the Los Angeles Kings.
1 minute, are you ready?
To confirm a deal with the Chicago Blackhawks that is going to make Ed Olchuk, a Chicago native, the happiest young man in this building, at least at the moment this deal is announced, if it is what we think it is.
You know, the Los Angeles Kings have drawn so much criticism over the years. They have not been a contender, and one of the big reasons they say is they have given away too many draft choices.
Rogie Vachon just confirmed that the Los Angeles pick has been transferred to Chicago.
Transferred their draft choice to Chicago. I have been asked to announce the consideration for that transfer. Chicago will send their goalkeeper Bob Janusek to Los Angeles. They will give up their first round selection in these proceedings and the third round in these proceedings. Both clubs will switch their choices in the 4th round. Next order of claim will be Chicago.
You're looking at the assistant to Chicago general manager Bob Pulper. That's Jack Davison, who may well be the man designated to make the official announcement. It doesn't have to be the GM who makes the call. There is a name on that piece of paper, and when Brian O'Neill gets it, he'll ask for the name to be read by the Chicago table, Davison or Fulford, and the name is Ed Olchuk. Let's face it.
Chicago ready, Mr. O'Neill. Chicago select from the U.S. Olympic team and Chicago, Illinois, Ed Olchuk.
He'll talk to you for a long time about watching Stan Mikita and Bobby Hull, and well, he's got to be tickled.
Born in Chicago, August 16, 1966. He's 17 now. And here's Don Whitman.
Ed, congratulations. I know that your family is sitting there very anxious for you to be selected, I'm sure, by Chicago because you're a native of Chicago.
Greatest moment of my life. I can't believe it. I really can't.
Did you have any idea that you would be selected by Chicago?
I just heard a lot of rumors this year, and I just thank God for the people in Chicago for helping me out.
Very emotional moment for you. Congratulations. Let's go back upstairs now to Dick Irvin.
Well, emotional is right. You saw his mother.
Out skating, and I said, I'll take you. And so that's what we did.
And then once you took him, he wanted to leave the ice, I understand.
Yeah, he would, his said his feet would hurt, and he would cry and just hang over the boards. And I said, no, you're not going to give up. You just go out there and just continue and just work.
Well, the emotion of the moment. Diana Olczyk. Her son played for the U.S. Olympic team. That's where we really got to know about him. Part of what they call the diaper line down there, along with Pat LaFontaine, now with the New York Islanders, and David Jensen. He was an Illinois midget star in the Chicago area. His last year down there, he had 169 points.
I know you.
And there it is. They wanted him, and they got him.
People will wonder, what has L.A. done? And when L.A. gets to do what it gets to do later in the first round, we'll try to explain the reasoning behind the L.A. pick. Here's Toronto for Al Iafrate.
From the Belleville Bulls and the U.S. Olympic team, Al Iafrate.
He played most of the season with the United States Olympic team, leading up to and including the Sarajevo Olympics. Didn't play a whole lot on the ice there. Then went to the Belleville Bulls for 10 games in the Ontario Hockey League and did not play well, even by his own admission. There are widely differing views about this player. Physically, he has all the skill. He can really skate. Some think he has been overrated. Others think that it may take a year or two, but he may well end up being the best player in this draft. Al Iafrate is, as of this moment, a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Well, this is Al Iafrate in his United States Olympic team uniform from the Detroit area with that big midget team that's produced the likes of Pat LaFontaine and Alfie Turcotte. They won the American National Championship a couple of years ago. Second youngest member of the U.S. Olympic team this past year at the age of 17. He turned 18 on March 21st. David, as a Torontonian, how do you like the pick?
Well, it's strictly coincidental, but it should be pointed out that the Leafs have plans almost firm to open their training camp next season in Belleville.
Transferred to Montreal.
This is where it gets interesting now. What do the Canadians do? And this is where the international intrigue could take place with Peter Svoboda.
Well, there's the Hartford table, but their pick has gone to Montreal through the Pierre LaRouche trade 3 seasons ago. Serge Savard speaking for the Canadians.
He may call a name out or he may call a timeout. He doesn't seem to be wasting any words in discussion. This would be the fifth. Presumably he knows what he's doing.
Montreal. Into it. As Dave mentioned, we have heard that Svoboda is ensconced in a hotel room here in Montreal. Interesting that he is a defenseman. The Canadians need a sniper. That's been the main theme of the Montreal fandom here in this city. They had 3 defensemen who didn't put on a uniform during the Stanley Cup playoffs. They were deep in bodies, if perhaps not in talent, in their opinion, obviously, at that time. And now, have we got him coming in?
Well,
let's see now. This is really going to put the capper on it. Don's down at the
Don Whitman is there. He'll know.
Absolutely correct. The speculation that Peter Svoboda was ensconced in a hotel room here in Montreal. He is here at the Montreal Forum. He is going to be coming in just a moment. A young man from Czechoslovakia, the 18-year-old, and he is now coming into the Montreal Forum. So there has been some international intrigue involved in this draft selection. And there he is, putting on the Montreal Canadiens sweater, Peter Svoboda. And this has certainly created a murmur throughout the crowd, and
this reaction from the crowd. Dave, in the speculation as to what the Canadians might do, his name really didn't surface at all. He is basically a stranger.
Were that the Calgary Flames had the most information about this fellow, the most contact with him, if any, had been possible. And the Flames had been cut off at the pass, as it were, by the Canadians, if indeed that was Calgary's intention.
Now, there's the Calgary table. Cliff Fletcher's gray hair just at the top right of your screen in behind. And he's on the telephone.
The point must be made that the Montreal Canadiens must sign Peter Svoboda.
Chicago transferred to Los Angeles.
What Los Angeles will do with a pick gained in that trade with Chicago.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles selects from the Canadian Olympic team, Craig Redmond.
Los Angeles selects Craig Redmond from the Canadian Olympic team.
There is Craig Redmond, who is a distant cousin of former NHLers Mickey and Dick Redmond. He was a University of Denver Bear before he was a Canadian Olympian. He is a defenseman who probably, of the Olympians available in this draft, had the best performance in Sarajevo. He was born in Dawson Creek, BC, lived in Langley, BC. He's 5'10" and 190, and he's a Los Angeles King. We'll be back to Sports Weekend's coverage of the NHL Draft momentarily.
To my friends, a thank you song for being kind to me. To my friends, a thank you song for being kind to me.
This was for all of those who ever wonder if your United Way gift is really appreciated.
Respect for wild animals began with this man, Ernest Thompson Seton. He began as a wolf hunter, but soon became a conservationist, artist, scientist, and author. In the past 100 years, his stories about animals have been translated into many languages. He was the keeper of the wilds. Ernest Thompson Seton, Sunday night on CBC television.
Beginning Thursday, June 14th, live from the Ottawa Civic Center, the making of a Prime Minister, the Liberal Leadership Convention, a CBC Television News special.
Serge Savard, I think you've just pulled off the coup of the draft.
Well, we feel, all our staff feel that he was the best player available in the old draft, and we don't want to be smarter than the other club. We just like the kid, and we wouldn't draft him if the kid wouldn't have been here. So the kid is here physically. And
well, we announced in Sports Weekend that we heard rumors you had him hidden away in a hotel here in Montreal for the past couple of days.
No, just last night. He got in town last night.
Who picked him up at the airport? Were you there personally?
Jacques Lemaire.
Jacques Lemaire did it. Well, you're quite excited about it. Yeah. Now you have to sign him, of course.
Well, we all agreed to that before. It's all done.
Serge, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, Jacques Lemaire knows his way around Switzerland. I don't know if that's where he had to go to get Peter Svoboda initially, but there are the first 6 picks, and the one that caused the flutter, Peter Svoboda from Litvinov, Czechoslovakia, and league to Montreal.
The Red Wings are ready.
This is Detroit pick number 7.
Very happy to select from Kitchener of the Ontario Hockey League as center iceman Sean Burr.
The Detroit Red Wings picking 7th overall, 17-year-old Sean Burr, 6'1", 180, born in Sarnia, played in the Ontario Hockey League with the Kitchener Rangers. He is a forward, 41 goals and 44 assists in 68 games this past season. And he is now a Red Wing. And he is one of the players, Dave, that you did hear mentioned as a possibility for the Canadians. A possible high-scoring forward. But he belongs now to the Detroit Red Wings, as he is greeted by Mr. Mike Ilitch, the owner of the team, and others at the Red Wings official table.
Well, he won't be playing as close to home as Ed Olczyk, but a Sarnia native playing in Detroit isn't all bad. And here is a look at Sean Burr in the number 18 white uniform of the Kitchener Rangers, who, of course, won the Memorial Cup, or went to the Memorial Cup final before losing to the Ottawa 67s this season. And Sean Burr was always highly rated in this draft, and I don't think anybody thought he'd get past the first 10 picks. I think it might be a mild surprise that Detroit has selected him in the number 7 spot. There are those who feel the Wings might need a defenseman more than they need a centerman. There are those who feel the Wings can use help just about everywhere, though they did dramatically improve last season. So Sean Burr goes to Detroit, and the next pick belongs to St. Louis. The question, will the Blues use it?
They didn't have a pick at all last year.
Has completed a deal with Club de Hockey Canadien. The Montreal Canadiens unconditionally transferred the NHL rights to goalkeeper Richard Wansley. Hartford Whalers' second-round choice in the 1984 entry draft, property of Montreal, and Montreal's own second and third-round choices in the 1984 entry draft to the St. Louis Blues. in exchange for St. Louis' own first and second round choices in the 1984 entry draft.
I hope that perfectly clear.
So now the Canadians will be picking in place of the Blues. Ron Caron announced that, and now the Canadians are back at the microphone. Are they ready?
This is the way they backed themselves up with the Svoboda pick. This will be the player that they would have taken number 5. And this trade allows them to take that player plus Svoboda. And it is rumored to be Shane Corson of the Brantford Alexanders, who was one of the Sports Weekend top 5 that was detailed at the top of our program.
From Brantford Alexanders, Shane Corson.
Right on, Dave. So Serge Savard, the Canadians, picking up 2 choices in the first 8, and there is Shane Corson. He's 17 years of age, will turn 18 in August. A left-hand shot, 6 feet, 175. From the Brantford Alexanders, where he scored 25 goals and 46 assists in 66 games played this past season. He was 7th as far as the Ontario Hockey League rookie scoring was concerned. Drafted 7th overall in the first round in the 83 midget draft. So here he is stepping up in class very quickly. He is 8th overall in the National Hockey League this year. Shane Corson, the newest member of the Montreal Canadiens.
He's listed as a center, but most people think he will be a left winger in the NHL, and at whatever position he plays, he is considered one of the toughest, if not the toughest, hard-nosed players in the draft.
John, he's not going to all right.
A lot of people in Barrie are happy for this young man. That is where he's from. He played his junior hockey, as we've said, in Brantford.
The obligatory photographs, Serge Savard and Canadiens coach Jacques Lemaire. Some of these kids look cool, some of them look a little bewildered.
I think there's real value in a player who can be or is a left winger. Not too many will you see in this first round, and I don't know what the Canadians plan to do with him, but as I said, a lot of people think he should be and will be a left winger, and analyze for me the state of the Canadians' left side and where he fits in.
Well, he'll fit in if he can make it. I think he's too young, Dave. I don't think they'll use him right now. Don Whitman's standing by at floor level.
And the man now putting on a St. Louis Blues sweater, just traded, Rick Walmsley. Rick, how do you feel about... I'll let you put the sweater on first. How do you feel about the swap?
I feel like I just got drafted here, even though I'm only 25. A new job with a new organization, and to see how things go. The only thing that really upsets me about this whole thing is I just started painting my fence this morning, and I only got 3 sections done, so I don't know what to do now.
Don't worry about that right now.
No, I don't think I will.
Rick, congratulations, and good luck to you with St. Louis.
Thanks very much.
Rick Walmsley, who was acquired in a trade with the Montreal Canadiens for number 8 draft selection.
Well, up until this point, there hasn't been a major surprise. From this point, it becomes very unpredictable. But to say there have been no major surprises doesn't mean there haven't been some terrific stories when you analyze what has happened with Svoboda, with what Serge Savard has done. He controls the draft to this point.
And Pittsburgh, second pick. Pittsburgh has called time. The 9th pick coming up. This belongs to Pittsburgh via the deal with Winnipeg, and whereby Randy Carlyle went to the Winnipeg Jets. And Eddie Johnson has called time.
DJ's looking to talk to somebody, so he is not yet certain what he wants to do. We'll find out when we come back. The Sports Weekend's coverage of the 84 entry draft at the Montreal Forum.
Here's a name to remember for spark plugs. Copper Plus, the latest and best ever spark plug from Champion for just about every domestic and imported car sold in Canada. From Chrysler to Toyota, from Buick to Volkswagen, and everything in between. Copper Plus for top performance, no matter what you drive. Nothing sparks like a Champion, guaranteed. The Beachcombers. Adventure, action, and danger.
Well, Dick, we're at number 9 in the first round, just approaching the midway mark. We are in a timeout called by Pittsburgh. Eddie Johnston, after drafting Mario Lemieux, has 2 other picks in the first round. This suggests he might be ready to deal his second pick, the 9th overall, and I wonder if we can get downstairs and find out who he's talking to.
Well, he got the 9th pick from the Winnipeg Jets. Don Whitman standing by with the Jets general manager, John Ferguson.
Well, John Ferguson did, in fact, trade that selection to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and now I understand that Eddie Johnson, Fergie, has gone over to the Quebec Nordique table and is attempting to make a deal, and Dale Hunter, my informants tell me, is the player involved. Can you update us on that?
Well, they have tried to move up their 2 picks for Dale Hunter, but I think they're holding pretty firm now, Quebec. But we're pretty happy right now because we have turned David Ellett professional, and when we made that trade for Randy Carlyle, we knew David Ellett was coming, and he's here today, and we're pretty happy about that. He's an all-star defenseman in Bowling Green, and we drafted him 2 years ago, and he's ready now.
And you expect him to be on your NHL roster next year?
Yes, we certainly do. We expect him to be right in our lineup and play with Babbage and Carlisle and Ellett and Waters and Kite back there and Campbell. We're getting there. And well, we're pretty happy to sign Dave Ellett.
Fergie, you don't have a first-round selection. You will have the 30th choice overall. We'll watch with interest to see who you come up with. Right now, let's go back upstairs to Dick and Dave.
Choose to take one of your 5
It appeared in a brief glimpse that Eddie Johnson was talking to Calgary.
Pittsburgh have taken their first 5-minute timeout.
There will be another timeout, so maybe Eddie Johnson wants to talk to other people. From this point on, I think we're looking for whatever surprises there might be in the draft. Again, surprises and big news aren't necessarily the same thing. In past drafts, there have been many surprises.
Larry Robinson has become an NHL superstar, even though he was not picked until number 20 in the 1971 draft. The Islanders' Brian Trottier followed a similar pattern from the 22nd overall choice in 1974 to a career as an NHL great. The name Dave Taylor wasn't heard at the NHL draft until pick number 210 in 1975. Defenseman Ken Morrow has been a winner as both amateur and pro, but he wasn't selected until 68 in 76. Goaltender Pete Meters was way down the list, number 135 in the 1977 draft. 14 teams passed on Mike Bossy before the New York Islanders picked him in 1977. Mark Messier has become an all-star for the Edmonton Oilers, who found him still available on the 48th pick in 1979. Glenn Anderson, another Edmonton star, was the 69th draft selection in 1979. The Oilers had number 69 again in 1980 and selected one of their top stars today, Jari Kurri. 1983's Calder Trophy winner Steve Larmer wasn't selected until the 120th spot in 1980. And another late pick, the Canuck Patrick Sundstrom, wasn't chosen until selection number 175 4 years ago.
We've had 8 players chosen so far, and we would like to review it for those of you who have just tuned in, or for those of you who want to take just one more look and see what has transpired thus far. It began, as everyone expected, with Mario Lemieux going to Pittsburgh, but not going to the Pittsburgh table.
And then you had Kirk Muller, ex of the Canadian Olympic team, going to the New Jersey Devils. 2 Americans, Ed Olczyk and Al Iafrate. Dave was just mentioning to me, second time in 2 years that 2 out of the top 4 have been from the United States. Then the big surprise, the Canadians drafting Czechoslovakian defector Petr Svoboda, a defenseman, 18 years of age. Craig Redmond to L.A., Sean Bird of Montreal, Shane Corson from Montreal.
From the Kamloops Oilers, Doug Bodger.
Doug Bodger has been chosen by Pittsburgh.
Doug Bodger.
Doug Bodger from the Kamloops Oilers, 18 years of age. He is a defenseman, and here he comes, 200 pounds, just over 6 feet, 3rd highest Western Hockey League junior defenseman from the standpoint of scoring this past year. No surprise here. He was rated pretty highly, Dave, I think, by most people looking at about this point in the draft.
Well, he anchored the defense of the Oilers, who won the Western Hockey League Championship, went to the Memorial Cup representing Western Canada. And Doug Bodger, had he gone 1 pick more, in other words, had Pittsburgh not taken him, he could have been picked by Vancouver, whose coach Bill LaForge was Doug Bodger's coach last season at Kamloops. So there might be some disappointment in the Vancouver camp, although I think the Canucks do want a forward. as opposed to a defenseman. One can only wonder what Eddie Johnston was contemplating as he shot this pick around, at least to the Calgary table. But I don't think anybody's going to question what Eddie Johnston has come up with his first two choices. He's got the highest scoring junior forward ever in Canada, and he has got one of the very highly rated defensemen, and of course he needs help everywhere. But this is a pretty good balance for two picks that Eddie Johnston has exercised, and he's got still another to come in the 16th spot. Don Whitman is on the floor with, let's find out.
Well, Al Iafrate is almost as concerned about how some of the other players were drafted about his own selection by the Toronto Maple Leafs. You had an inkling last night, I think, that you would go to Toronto, Al.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday. And they went real good, and people were telling me I was probably going to get drafted there. It's a great honor to be drafted, and being drafted there, it just makes me that much happier.
Obviously, much more excited to be wearing the Maple Leaf than Craig Redmond.
Yeah.
Okay, Al, good luck to you in the Toronto uniform this coming season. Now let's go back upstairs.
Vancouver is next. There have been rumors of a trade involving the Canucks. Let's find out whether they are true.
Please provide the young lad the slip.
We need to trade mics, first of all, and then we'll...
They are trying to get it fixed. Jackie Gordon's going to have to go to somebody else's table where the microphone is in order.
Okay. All right.
Here we go.
Vancouver request time. Vancouver request time.
This is to discuss the trade that we thought might be coming. Rumors of a trade between Vancouver and Boston. The Bruins trying to move up to get a particular player. We do not quite know whom, and will not know until something is finalized here. And if, in fact, Vancouver is talking to Boston, will have to be determined. One more point about Al Iafrate after Don talked to him. I think it's pretty safe to say that the Maple Leafs intend, unless Al Iafrate shows a great deal at training camp, to have him play, at least start next season, in Belleville with a full season of junior hockey. At least start that way. The Leafs... I think probably would have liked Ed Olczyk, but they missed him by one, and I think they're very happy to get Iafrate. They were in this comfortable position, if there is such a thing anymore, where they like four players, and they said, let the first three teams make their choice on whatever is left we're going to take. They liked, obviously, in whatever order, Lemieux, Muller, Olczyk, and Iafrate, and after the first three picks were made, they just simply said Al Iafrate, the same way they did 2 years ago with Gary Nyland. So now we're waiting for Vancouver, and Don Whitman will tell us what's happening on the floor.
Well, word down on the floor is that the Vancouver Canucks and their general manager, Harry Neal, are attempting to work out a deal, and one of the players mentioned very prominently is Mr. Hunter from Quebec as part of that transaction. It might involve a couple of teams, perhaps, working out a swap so that Hunter could be transferred to the Vancouver Canucks.
For whatever reason, Dick, Dale Hunter's name has cropped up in every trade rumor we've heard involving Quebec, and I suppose the only reason to pin to it at this point is that he didn't have a very good playoff series against the Montreal Canadiens, but up until that point, he had been considered among the most valuable Nordiques.
You know, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Montreal Canadiens seem to be the stars of this show so far. And Pittsburgh, Dave, with 3 choices in the first round, that's an all-time high for that franchise. And this has to be a very critical year for the Pittsburgh franchise. So they have 2 picks. Eddie Johnston said he would work hard at getting rid of numbers 9 and 16 if the proper deals came along. They didn't, obviously. And we have now Harry Neal in conversation with...
That's his coaching staff, his newly appointed head coach to his left, Bill LaForge.
Right.
And then Ron Smith, who was an assistant last year, will continue to be that under LaForge. So everybody's involved in this decision by Vancouver. We'll come back to find out what it is in just a moment.
Ducks around the globe. In Canada, the United States, and Mexico. In Canada, Ducks Unlimited is busy building marshlands for ducks to come home to. Because every year, ducks instinctively fly south. Why? Why not? Ducks Unlimited works internationally to provide good homes for ducks everywhere. Ducks Unlimited. 2 ducks in every home. No, 2 homes for every duck.
Conserving wetlands for wildlife.
The Nation's Business, Sunday night.
We will put every last effort forth to achieve that objective.
We cannot fail the people of Canada by letting their national heritage slip away.
Canadians have shown they can join together in achieving national goals.
Watch the country's decision makers, the men and women you elected to the House of Commons in Ottawa. The Nation's Business, Sunday after the National, 11:15, 11:45 in Newfoundland.
A sales executive leads a full life after open heart surgery. A 13-year-old girl survives third-degree burns. A hemophiliac pursues a career as an artist. Success stories that come from the miracle of modern medicine and your blood. Somewhere, right now, someone is waiting. Take a few minutes to give this precious gift. Visit your nearest Red Cross blood donor clinic.
That name will be, what is it? Jean-Jacques Daigneault from the Longueuil Chevalier and the Canadian Olympic team. And presumably, is that Harry Neal writing the name? If that's Harry Neal writing the name, Vancouver takes Jean-Jacques Daigneault. This is what LA has done in past trades.
In 1969, the Kings traded their first pick to Montreal for Jerry Desjardins. It turned out to be number 1 in Ray Janot. In 1970, they got Skip Craik from Boston. Their draft choice, number 3, was Reggie Leach. In 71, the Canadians held the Kings' first pick via Dick Duff, and it was Larry Robinson. In 72, the Canadians, still benefiting from the Desjardins deal, wound up drafting number 4 and getting Steve Shutt. The next year, the Boston Bruins held the Kings' first pick for Eddie Shack, and they chose number 6 and picked Andre Savard. In 74, the Kings traded their top choice to the Canadians for 2 players. It turned out to be number 4 and Mario Tremblay. In 1975, the Canadians used a draft pick obtained for Terry Harper and chose Pierre Mondu, 15th overall. L.A. got Gene Carr from the Rangers in 77. The draft choice given up became Ron Duguay. 2 years later, the Boston Bruins gave up goalie Ron Graham for the Kings' top choice. It turned into defense star Ray Bork. In 82, Jerry Korab became an L.A. King via Buffalo on a draft choice, and the Sabres got Phil Housley. And last year, using the L.A. pick obtained in return for Richard Martin, Buffalo drafted another teenage sensation, goaltender Tom Barrasso.
Well, L.A. made another trade this year, of course, and that'll be discussed.
Vancouver selects from Team Canada and Longueuil, J.J. Daigneault.
Now, there is a local product, Jean-Jacques Daigneault, the defenseman who played under the coaching of Jacques Lemaire. 2 seasons ago at the Longueuil Juniors was voted that time the best defenseman in the Quebec Junior League and a first-team All-Star.
He won't get down there very fast. No. He's on crutches after a knee operation. The people in Vancouver shouldn't faint right away because there, of course, is every hope he'll be okay. And he was certainly okay when he was playing like this for the Canadian Olympic team. I really didn't expect Vancouver would have a defenseman at the top of their priority list. There are some who think Daigneault might be a better forward, although there are others who violently disagree with that and think he's been compared to Ray Bork. Let's say it like everybody else is saying it. And here's Don Whitman to talk to him.
Well, Jean-Jacques is going to put on that Vancouver Canucks sweater right now, and he has the crutches being held by Norm Jewison, PR man, and Jean-Jacques, if you'll just turn around here, and I'll hold you up. What is the problem? A lot of people wondered about that knee when you were introduced at the dinner the other day.
Well, I had a pulled ligament in my knee, and they had to operate me last May of 7, so now it's getting better. I did my therapy for the 2 last week, and I'm very happy. The knee's getting very, very good.
How about being selected by Vancouver?
Well, I'm very happy about that. You know, because of my knee, I went a little bit higher, but I'm very happy to be with Vancouver.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, let's go back upstairs.
Well, the Hartford Whalers are now picking. This is the choice they got from Montreal, and Emil Francis, the Cat, has called for time. You kind of wonder about the Whalers, what they might do. They have the 11th overall via Montreal.
Let's follow Emil over and see exactly where he's going.
They don't have another pick, Dave, until number 110. So it'll be a long time between picks for the Whalers. And he obviously is going to wheel and deal a little bit here if he can.
Talking to Lou Nanny, who has a player in mind that Emil Francis also likes. I can tell you right now that these two fellas are using the name of David Quinn quite liberally. He is a defenseman from Kent High School in Connecticut. Lou Nanne would like to have him. Emil Francis has expressed interest in him. Emil Francis is now saying, Lou, if you're more interested in him than I am, prove it by giving me something to trade my pick. Minnesota has the 13th pick, just 2 away from Hartford's selection. So the Whalers, if they like somebody else almost as much or even better than Quinn, can have a pick just after Minnesota's and might be able to get something from the North Stars. I think there's no doubt that Minnesota is prepared to give something for the right to select defenseman Dave Quinn from Connecticut. Mario Lemieux started it all off by going to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then Kirk Muller to New Jersey, and then Ed Olczyk, after a trade between Chicago and Los Angeles, was selected by the Blackhawks. Ally Afredi was selected by Toronto, and Peter Svoboda emerged from the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in the catacombs of the Montreal Forum to put on a Montreal sweater. That was the top 5, and the crowd was still buzzing here at the Forum when they saw Svoboda, as Craig Redmond came along and was selected by the LA Kings. Sean Burr was 7, and Sean Burr is a Detroit draft, not Montreal.
Shane Corson came to the Canadiens via a deal with St. Louis, followed by Doug Bodger to Pittsburgh, Jean-Jacques Daigneault to Vancouver. Emil Francis is now back at the Hartford table after having checked signals with Lou Nanne of the Minnesota North Stars. And now Lou Nanne is gone as the machinations continue here. Following the conversation he had with Francis, Nanne has gone over and is now talking with Cliff Fletcher of the Calgary Flames.
Well, presuming my information is good, I think that Hartford or Minnesota is going to get Dave Quinn, and for Minnesota to get him, there probably will have to be a deal. Where Calgary fits into this, I don't know, but let's face it, if the Calgary Flames wanted Peter Svoboda and thought they had a shot at him to improve their defense, they are drafting right behind Hartford and between Hartford and Minnesota, in other words. So if the Flames would like young Mr. Quinn, they're going to have to deal with somebody. Although I'm not sure Calgary's as high on Quinn as Hartford and Minnesota are. There's another player in here that all 3 of these clubs like, and that's a left winger from Ottawa named Gary Roberts.
Hartford, Sylvain Cote from Quebec.
Now, one can only wonder whether the Whalers have agreed to do something to leave Quinn available for either Calgary or Minnesota. If he is available at Minnesota's pick, he's gone to the North Stars. But this is Sylvain Cote.
18 years of age, a right-hand shooting defenseman who is an offensive-type defenseman. Likes to rush with the puck. Played with the Quebec Rempart. He was a second-team All-Star in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League this past season. He is a native of Quebec City, played his junior hockey there, and, as I mentioned, became well-known for his offensive talents on the back line with the Quebec Juniors. So now he goes to the Hartford Whalers, and barring a further deal one way or the other, he is going to be the only pick they get through until number 110.
We saw some film on this young fella. Presumably you'll be able to see it as well, and he takes the puck from one end and carries it to the other just about as well as anybody you're going to find in this draft. He is not all that big as defensemen go. Some people list him at 6 feet, but I stood right next to him yesterday, and if he's 6 feet, I'm quite happy. Because I didn't think
Calgary.
This is Calgary's pick now.
Calgary request time. Calgary takes time.
Well, there have been a lot of timeouts, and perhaps more so than in past years, Dave, in the first round. And I think that just reflects what we were talking about right off the top of the show. You get past the first couple, and there were just so many good kids through into the first 20 that it's very tough for the general managers and the scouts to make up their minds. Here's Don Whitman.
Well, as you suggested earlier, Dave and Dick, the Calgary Flames had their eyes on Peter Svoboda. The Montreal Canadiens, of course, pulled the coup by bringing Svoboda into town last evening and then drafting him with the number 5 pick. And the word I hear in talking with some of my contacts is that the Montreal Canadiens actually got Svoboda out of Czechoslovakia. And it's suggested that it was Jacques Lemaire, through his contacts in Switzerland, who was able to convince Svoboda to leave Czechoslovakia to the fact, and now is going into the National Hockey League with Montreal. Let's go back upstairs.
The Calgary Flames are going to select Gary Roberts, as we suggested. All 3 of these teams in this little tete-a-tete like Roberts. And it looks like Calgary's going to take him, and you watch Quinn go to Minnesota. The question is, are there any deals that have been made to allow Quinn to get to Minnesota, even to allow Roberts to get to to Calgary. We don't know, and they may not announce it if there are.
Calgary Flames are pleased to announce as their first selection from the Ottawa 67's Gary Roberts.
Well, we said that left wingers were in short supply throughout hockey, one might say, and this is a young man who is an all-around winger.
Thank you all so much for watching. Once again, we're really trying to grow as a channel, and we're trying to reach 3,000 subscribers. We want to put out the best draft content out there for you all. Thank you for hearing this message. Once again, God and the Lord bless. Sports Draft History is out.